Hi everyone, welcome back to Baking with Miss Manzo. Today we have another visitor on our show. This is my mom. This is Mrs. Manzo, but I'm going to be calling her mom throughout our video. Today we're making apple pie. There are a lot of variations as to how we can make apple pie, but we're going to do something that's a little decorative and you can actually see it on this box here, but I'm going to show you on the next screen. So after you see that, we'll come back. I'll go over our ingredients and our cooking supplies, and then we're going to head over to the sink to wash our hands.
Okay, here is an example of an apple pie that we will be making today. Please take a look at the top where it looks like a woven basket. We're going to also be using that today too. I hope you enjoy.
So I realized before that my mom didn't get a chance to say hi. So we're back. Hi, boys and girls. Okay, so I want to go over our ingredients. As you can see, we have a lot going on our workspace. So we're going to go over our ingredients and our supplies. As we saw in the slideshow, and as I've said, we're going to be making apple pie. So now, as I've said, there's a lot of different ways you can make it. You can buy store-bought pie crust, which we're going to be using for decoration on the top. You can make your own using a box. You can make your own from scratch. So we're going to be doing a little of our both. We're going to be doing the pie crust mix. We're going to be using the pre-made dough. So this is going to be our first step after we wash our hands. We have our apples. Apple pie can be whatever type of apples do you like. What are your favorite? Okay, I like green Granny Smith, so that's what we're going with here. You can do Red Delicious. You can do any type of apple that you like to do.
I wonder if you could mix the apples. Maybe use Granny Smith with Red Delicious.
Yeah, you can get creative, just like art. We always say that baking's like that. So if she likes Macintosh, I like Granny Smith. We can compromise and use a mixture. That's totally cool. Definitely. So we'll be washing these, we'll rinsing them, then slicing them for our apple pie. This pie crust calls for water and this pie mix. So it's very easy to do. My mom's gonna help me roll it out. We have a rolling pin, okay? Um, we have a pie plate, which is what we're going to bake our pie in. And then we're going to have to be going over to the stove to mix up some really good ingredients to add to the apple pie mixture. So before we get started, as always, let's go over to the sink to wash our hands.
Okay, we're at our sink. We know we're going to use lukewarm water.
Wash our hands really nicely. I'm going to do it first, and then my mom will come in and wash her hands because she's going to be handling the food too.
Soap smells so good.
So we are officially ready to bake. So now that our hands are clean, we are able to start prepping our pie crust. So as I told you, we're going to be doing a little of both so that we can kind of just get an idea of how it is. Me personally, I like to take the easier way and get the already rolled pie crust made, but homemade pie dough definitely tastes better. So we have here we're using Betty Crocker, but we always say the brand doesn't matter. So first thing we want to do, because we are going to want to bake this before we put apples into it, is we want to preheat our oven to 450 degrees. Now we know whenever we're handling the oven, we need our oven mitts and we need our adult supervision. So, so my mom is here for my adult supervision today. Anyway, so mom, can you go please preheat the oven? 450 degrees. So while she's doing that, this bag calls for, it makes two. We're only making one since we're not going to be doing the top with this dough. We're going to be doing that with the already prepared dough. So I am going to cut this open, and you want to help me measure this? So this calls for 1 1/3 cup of this mixture. So we have our measuring cups. Do you have a butter knife? Okay.
So what I like to do is I like to overfill what I'm measuring just a little bit so that I can make sure I'm getting the proper measurement. And I see what I'm doing with the knife. I'm just evening out the dry mix so that I get a nice level amount of the mixture. There's 1 cup, okay, and 1/3. A little bit more. Make sure you fill it. Okay,
Beautiful.
and 1/3. Okay.
All right. So now that's the hard part. We let my mom do that part. Now, this recipe calls for 2 tablespoons of cold water and 2 teaspoons of cold water. So I have a tablespoon and a teaspoon. And what I did is I already put cold water just in a bowl. That way I'm not going back and forth between, the sink. So I'm going to do my 2 tablespoons. So again, we want this to be as even as level as possible. Here's our 1. Here's our 2nd. We'll do our 2 teaspoons. Well, you know what? I forgot a wooden spoon. Can you get that right over there, please? So she's going to come back with a wooden spoon so that we could mix our dough. We're going to mix it up. Thank you. So we're mixing, and it starts to form like little dough balls. And we want to keep mixing it up until it kind of combines well. It's going to form a ball. Once that's combined, we'll take it out, and then we're going to use our hands to get it into a ball, and then we get to use our rolling pin. Fun stuff. It's like Play-Doh. We get to play with our food when we make it. Is this how it's supposed to look, you think?
Mm-hmm.
So then we take it out together and then mold it together, or does it mold in here?
Well, it should come together a little bit more.
You want to get involved?
I would love to get involved.
There she goes.
See? Make sure you get the water all through the dry ingredients. Makes it easier to pick this up when you're ready to start making your dough ball. See the dough starting to form? Okay. Okay. Maria, I think I'm going to use my hands for this. Now that we've gotten most of it, the moisture mixed into the dry mix, to make it into a nice ball that we can actually roll out and make a crust from, I think we can use our hands to really compact the dough. You can see I have a ball of dough.
That's beautiful.
See that? And I think it's just easier to get your dough ball to form. Look at that. The ball is getting bigger and bigger, and it's really coming together now. Okay. Okay.
Beautiful.
All right, Maria, I'll let you be doing the honors of rolling it out.
So rolling it out, I'm using just it's like a flexible cutting board that I'm going to use just so that it doesn't get stuck into the grooves of my surface here. So what we like to do is with our rolling pin, I like to put some flour on it. That way the dough doesn't stick to the rolling pin. And what our goal is for it to be a little bit bigger than from the bottom to the top of this pie pan or pie plate, because you want to tuck it in. You're going to be putting it up the sides. So we want to give ourselves a little extra dough to work with.
Did you want a little flour?
I think flour would be great. Thank you so much. All right. Just gonna organize our surface here a little bit. Going on. All right. Put some on the dough too, or?
Okay. There you go, Maria.
All right. So, for those of you that don't know, my first name is Maria. That's why my mom. That's why she keeps calling me Maria. So
Sorry.
that's all right. She's good. She's got it. All right. So, Mom, I think you might have to get involved in this because
Okay.
you're usually really good at rolling dough out.
Okay.
So, um,
Take your time.
yeah. Say. So then you just kind of move your hands around. You can't really see it so great, but once I pick it up, once this is all rolled out, we'll be able to.
What's nice about this is you could actually turn it.
Yeah.
And now you're
See
moving the
that?
dough
If I was
in a
doing
different
this,
direction.
right, if I was doing this directly on my surface, it's going to be pretty difficult to move the whole cart around. So this was a pretty good idea that I didn't even know. You see that? You learn something new every day. We're going to keep rolling this out until it's a little bit larger than our pie plate. All right.
That looks good.
So
Very
I think
nice.
we are stretched out. I'm going to show you what it looks like. Now, it's not perfect at all. So what we do is once we transport it into our pie plate, then we get to use our fingers and we get to kind of make it all prettier. Okay? So my mom is going to help me lift it up just because sometimes even with the flour, it does stick a little bit. While I prepare the pie plate with our cooking spray, which we've used a lot. That just prevents it so when we go to cut it later, once it's fully made, we're able to cut our pie crust. The transport, not always a pretty adventure, but that was pretty good.
Not bad.
It was a two-person job. So now I'm going to
Let me move this
Yeah.
out of your way. Okay.
neat, clean surface as best possible, but with flour and all that good stuff. So now my mom's going to come back and we're going to kind of, you have to pinch different areas because as, the dough kind of cracks.
It breaks apart a little bit, and you can just pinch it together with your fingers. Make sure the dough is touching, and as it cooks, it will mend itself. It will bake together. Okay.
So this pie crust, doing this, so I decided to make apple pies, but you can change up the fruit that you use if you want to do blueberries.
My favorite.
My grandmother Nani, she loves peach.
Oh,
She loves peaches, so you could do something like that. We know Meredith loves strawberries. We talked about that.
Yeah, I forgot about strawberries.
Strawberries. People have made cherry pies. It all depends on your preference. Me personally, I love apple pie.
Ooh, warm with vanilla ice cream. That's yummy.
Yeah, that's better. And then sometimes you do whipped cream on it, whatever you want to do. But right now we are just working together to make sure that our dough is not,
There's no holes.
yes.
There's no open seams. And you can even trim the excess. See how it's hanging over the side of the pie plate? You could even trim that little excess off if you need to patch it in places. This is just what happens when you make pie crust from scratch. You could go get the perfect pie crust at ShopRite, but let me tell you something. There's a lot of fun making this and a lot of good times to eat it after too. Okay, that looks great.
Oh, so you just overlap it like that on the top? Because I was tucking it under to make it like,
No, make it look nice and pretty. It's your preference.
yeah,
It
so
can be
I
whatever
like,
you want.
nice edges. Because
Mhm.
around you want to tuck it in, no?
Yeah, look how nice and even that is. That's beautiful. Good job.
See that?
Very nice.
You like baking?
I love to bake, especially around the holidays. I love making cookies, all different varieties of cookies. And a lot of our friends look forward to getting those cookies as a little gift.
All right.
Homemade is always better.
What's your favorite cookie?
I like the sugar cookies. And you know what's fun is icing them and really making them your own.
Well, we made them. We did our Christmas in July.
How much fun was that?
Yeah. We had TJ over, right? My
Oh,
brother
boy.
came over. That was fun. All right. I think our pie crust is done. So now our preheated oven is done. It's ready at 450, and this calls for about 8 to 10 minutes just to kind of get it a little pre-cooked before we add our apples and all the good stuff in it. So we are going to, I'm going to let my mom go transport that carefully into the oven, and we're going to time it for 8 to 10 minutes. So she's just getting her oven mitts because she knows all about oven safety. So while we do that, then we're going to come back and we are going to get started on either cutting our apples. Are we going to do that first? Or are we going to do the mixture? We're going to probably cut our apples so that it's all prepped, and then we'll head over to the stove to mix all the sugars and good stuff. All right, we have our apples. We're getting ready for our next step. Our pie crust is in the oven. We're getting it warmed up so that we can add all the good stuff. So whatever apples you decide to use, they more than likely come with the labels. So the first thing you want to do is make sure that your labels come off. And then afterwards, even though we're going to be removing the skin from these apples for our recipe, I'd like to make sure that we rinse them off with nice cold water. So I'm going to have my mom just run these over to the sink, please. And then I'm going to just talk about how we're going to go about slicing those apples. So again, we're going to be using sharp objects, so similar to an oven where we practice kitchen safety, you want to make sure that you are taking your time and you're with an adult. Okay, so I use an apple, actually before we even get to that, you want to remove the skin off your apple. So there's a couple ways of doing that. This is a vegetable peeler, or in this case, a fruit peeler, and it's sharp blades that you kind of would take it and you would just remove it, all the skin, okay? That's an option. I have a really fun apparatus because I love kitchen supplies and all that good stuff. So this is an apple peeler, and this is actually what we're going to use, thank you, for our me peeling it here on the show. I just wanted to give you options at home if you were to make this, how you can go about removing the skin. So what this does, I have my little handle, okay, and again, this is sharp. These are four, like, very sharp little pegs that I take my apple and I hold it, and it holds it there in place for me. Now, I'm a righty, so I am going to turn this so that I can use this to crank. Now, this also has a case covering on it, and it's just a sharp blade. So what'll happen is as I turn this, did you ever use this?
No, that looks really neat.
Yeah.
Wait, so you don't need this?
Afterwards.
Oh, okay.
So this, I will start turning the handle, and you're going to see the skin come off like in a long ribbon.
So neat.
Watch. I got to make sure I keep doing it because as this moves around, the blade gets closer to the apple. So check this out.
Wow. Oh my gosh, that makes it so easy.
Yeah. So look, all the skin came off in one long ribbon.
Oh my gosh, that's so
Cool.
Really cool.
Ms. Mando, I am a huge fan of Home Goods. So I got this at Home Goods for only $10. For me, because I love baking, great deal. So then again, you're carefully going to just move this, use your muscles. You're going to take it off, and look, all the skin is gone except for the bottom, which we're really not going to get to anyway. Now, I'm going to let my mom do the next step, but again, I like to give you guys options at home because you may not have certain tools in your kitchen.
Right.
So for this, I have an apple slicer. So during the school year, when I need a snack during the day, I will bring apple slices. So this has a circle in the middle that will keep your core, and then it'll just slice your apple into different fractions. So that's an option. Another option, again, sharp object. You want to be careful. You could use a knife and cut your apple into the different slices. So if you want to start, you want to use this. So even with this, these are going to be big pieces. So I'm going to have her use this, and then she's still going to use a knife to cut the pieces even thinner. And while she's doing that, I'm going to continue to remove the skin. Ooh. Yeah, you got to put some muscle into that.
Not only that, you have to make sure you have it centered right over the core of the apple. So you can see, how neat is that? It makes it look like a little blossom. And then you can just pull off the slices. Look at those. Perfect.
I love this.
That's cute.
It's great. My handle fell off. No big deal.
Okay. Let me just throw this.
We'll just put it off to the side. We always have our little garbage area if you want to do that, and then we'll go back afterwards. Okay. So I'm only using 3 apples for this recipe just because I don't want it to be totally overflowing. But you can eyeball it. You can see sometimes recipes call from anywhere from 4 to 6 apples. There are 8 apples. The timer's off. Our pie crust is ready to come out. So the reason we do that first is because you want the pie crust to cool a little bit before we put the rest of our ingredients in and then put it back in the oven to cook. So my mom is over there taking it out carefully with her oven mitts. I have skinned all of our apples. Oh, wow. Gorgeous. So that's going to cool a little bit while we continue this. She's just going to turn that timer off at the top. Okay, no, the top on the microwave. Yeah, thank you. All right. Yes. So we're going to continue slicing these, and then we'll get ready to do our mixture to add to the apples. So all of our apples are sliced up. But as we said before, sometimes that machine that I use to get rid of the skin doesn't fully get everything off. So we're going to be using our knives to carefully cut them a little bit thinner and to cut off any excess skin. And we have a garbage can right here on the floor in between us so that you might see us throwing it. We're not throwing it on the floor. There is a garbage can there. All right, so we're going to just take our knives, and again, very carefully. You have an adult present, and we're just going to kind of trim the different skins off the ends here, and then we will be cutting the slices a little thinner. So again, when using a knife, you know you have to be very careful with your fingers, right? You don't want your fingers getting in the way of the knife. All right.
Yeah, whenever possible, keep your fingers as far back from where the blade is going to go, just to make sure there's no accidents. Are you just cutting them one more slice?
I am. Some of them are a little thicker, so you can just decide how thin you want them. Okay. We're going to keep doing this until all
Oh, wow.
until all of the slices are nicely cut. So I like to use a smaller knife when doing this just because big knives you can't really, get close and cut these skinny little pieces. So the reason that we are doing this closer to getting ready to bake is because they brown. Apples get brown if you leave them exposed to the air
You can see some of them.
too much. But that's okay because even if they start turning a little bit right now, it's not long enough that it's going to be a problem. And we're going to be adding that with the rest of the mixture in a little while anyway. So I'm cutting our last ones. So we're going to leave these right here. And now we're going to head over to the stove to add up our good stuff to mix with the apples inside of our pie crust.
Yum.
Now comes my favorite part where we get to mix our ingredients that are going to sweeten those apples and give it really good flavor. So the first thing it calls for is to melt a stick of butter. It calls for a half a cup, which a half a cup is equivalent to 8 tablespoons, which is an entire stick of butter. So, you can't really go wrong with butter. It always tastes delicious. So again, stove safety is similar to oven safety. You want to be very careful when operating this appliance. So I'm going to light this until we see it melting. And then we get to add other ingredients to it as we continue the process.
Your butter was room temperature, so it should melt pretty quickly.
Yeah, so the recipe doesn't call for it to be room temperature, but I allowed it to sit out a little bit because I knew I was going to eventually melt it anyway. So if it's already a little bit warmer to begin with, as soon as this hits the stove, it's going to You can't really see so much, but it is definitely starting to melt. So once this is melted, you want to get your tablespoon out and measure 3 tablespoons of all-purpose flour, and you're going to kind of mix it into the butter to kind of make like a paste. It's almost going to look like glue, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then we get to add sugars. So our mixture is coming to a boil. You can see the bubbles in there and hear them too. So we're going to reduce this heat to very, very low. So there's barely a flame. And it's called a simmer. So while that is simmering, we're going to go back to our workstation and do something really cool to make a decoration for the top of our apple pie.
We're going to show you how to make a lattice pie crust. Roll out enough chilled pie dough for the top of a 9-inch pie. A 13-inch circle should do it. Use your favorite recipe or store-bought dough. You could also check out our flaky pie crust recipe. Then, measure 3/4-inch increments and cut into strips. They don't need to be perfect. Now it's time to make the lattice crust. It's really simple. Just lay 5 strips over the filled pie. Carefully fold back the 2nd and 4th strip, then lay another strip of dough perpendicular to them. Unfold them over the new strip. Next, fold back the 1st, 3rd, and 5th strips, then lay another strip of dough perpendicular to them. Unfold them over the new strip. Just repeat this until the pie has been covered with the lattice crust. Trim the dough to within a 1/2 inch of the edge of the dish. Then fold the edges of the top and bottom crust underneath itself, creating a thicker border that rests on the lip of the dish. And that's it. Simple.
We have pre-made pie crusts, which is a lot easier to handle for making pie crusts and pies and all of that. So we saw this design on our other pie crust box, and you're going to watch a video in a minute, but this is called lattice. Now, lattice looks like a basket. It's woven, so it's like a pattern, over, under, over, under. So you're going to watch a video in a minute that's going to explain how we do this on a pie crust. Now, it is a little tricky, but I know if you do art at GLC with Mrs. Kaplan, I know she's been doing weaving with you in the past. So we're going to be able to do this with dough. So I'm going to open my dough crust, my pie crust here. So this is Pillsbury, and 2 rolled pie crusts come in here, but we're only going to be using 1 since we made the homemade pie dough crust for the bottom. So look at how easy this is. Look, ready? Are you ready? Perfection. Look at it. Picture perfect. A lot easier to handle than the dough we made, but you know what? That was made with homemade and love. So this, here we go. So what we're going to do now is I'm going to create strips. Now, a way you can do that, you can use your butter knife if you want, with a ruler next to it to make it straight. Okay, but what I have here, this is fancy. I told you I love baking. This is a pie crust cutter. So it has 2, like a pizza cutter. So it's flat here. This one has like a scalloped or like a bumpy edge.
Kind of a fluted edge. Yeah.
Fluted edge. If you want to be very scientific.
Make it look like a ruffle.
Right. So you have an option. I mean, I don't know if you have one of these tools at home, but I do here. So I think we're going to stick to the plain. Since most of us at home will have a flatter knife or something to cut with. So what we're going to do is we're going to make the strips to begin our lattice process. And then you guys are going to watch a video that's going to further explain how to do it. Do you want to do it?
How thick do they have to be?
Well, You, how many pieces of lattice do you want?
And do you start at the edge? I mean, right at here?
Sure.
Okay.
So we're just eyeballing it here. We're not really being precise. We're estimating in a way.
Is that thick enough?
I think that's nice. There's no right or wrong way. It's as thickness is whatever you would like. So we're going to continue creating these, and then we're going to watch the video to learn how to do that basket weave or lattice. Great.
Look at that. Oh, it's going to look so nice. This is fun. I love this little tool. A little pizza cutter.
Done a great job.
There.
Nice. So you may not use all of these pieces on your pie crust. You may, it depends, but we're going to cut the entire pizza crust here for our lattice shape. All right. This looks awesome. So just so you have an idea, all we did right now is we just prepped our strips. So I want you to take a watch of this video that's going to explain how to do that basket weave, and then we're going to put our apples and our mixture in our pie crust, and then we're going to do it ourselves. So you guys just watched the video on how to do the lattice method here. So what we're going to do is we're going to get all of our things set up so that we can now take our strips and begin that woven process. So the first thing that you're going to do, you have your pie crust that's starting to cool. It may not be totally cooled, so you want to be careful. Okay, but what you're going to do is you're going to put your sliced apples that you had done before just inside your pie crust mixture. To be honest, I think the 3 apples that I did was a
pretty much
a
filled
really
it.
great amount.
Yeah.
So again, you want to eyeball the size of the apples to see how you're going to do it. So now that delicious sugar butter mixture that we used before,
Smells so good.
we're going to just dump right on top. Just going to drizzle it.
Yep.
And that is just going to give so much flavor to those apples as they bake.
Oh my gosh, look at that.
Oh my gosh, do you smell that?
Delicious. Oh, it looks like caramel.
All right, so I'm going to use the spatula. We love our spatulas here, okay? And we are just going to take the excess mixture. I wish that you could smell.
Oh, it smells
It
delicious.
smells very good. So if you want, you can kind of, press your apples down. Make sure that everything is kind of in that mixture. All right, that way there's some of the coating of it on all of the apples so that it all just bakes around. It is going to be great. All right, so now comes the fun part.
This is the weaving part.
This is the weaving part.
What we've all been waiting for.
All right, so if you saw in the video, what it asks you to do is you're supposed to just lay all of your strips going in one direction. Not like the band, in one area. So we're going to do that, and then we lift, and we have to then do the basket weaving. So I think with this, we'll just do it. You don't want to like tighten it to the top because we're going to be lifting it up to do that lattice, that weaving. So again, you can space them out however you want. That's sufficient, right? So if you can tell,
Hanging over.
Yep, hanging over a little bit. So we may trim it, we may plug it in elsewhere. So then what we're going to do is we are going to start with one of our pieces, and you're going to kind of lift and go under one, over one, under one, over one, under and over. And you're going to continue that process until your whole basket is woven together. And again, you may cut off the excess and plug it in wherever else you need it. So I want you to continue with that process, and we're going to do that too. So we are adding our last bit here. Now, what I like to do if there's excess dough, I kind of like to just tuck it under and kind of attach it to the already baked dough that's there. That way it's all about presentation and the way it looks. So what we're going to do is we're going to now tuck under or attach all of the excess dough. And if it's too long, you want to trim it a little bit. But if there's just a little bit, you can kind of fold it under and tuck it onto the already baked dough, just for a prettier presentation. So we're going to keep doing that. Feel free to do that, and then it's getting ready for the oven.
Oh boy.
I'm excited.
Oh, it's so pretty.
Check it
Oh
out.
wow, Maria, that looks beautiful. How pretty
That
is
is
that?
a picture. Ooh, almost dripped out, but that's okay. So now it's ready for the oven. So did we read how much time did they tell us? So we did drop the oven down to 425 degrees. It was at 450 when we baked the bottom dough.
And you do
15 minutes. And then again, you want to eyeball it just to make sure it's not, burning or anything like that. So we're going to transport this into the oven. We're going to let it cook for about 15 minutes, and then we can't wait to see the finished product. So we're waiting for the timer to go off. And once that does, we just kind of check on the pie, because then we're going to have to lower the temperature to 325, right? 350 for 35 to 45 minutes. So like we say, we like to kind of put a number in between those. So about 40 minutes we'll time it for to see how it goes. There's about 10 seconds left on this timer. I'm excited. It smells good. Okay. Look. Here, hold that open for us, please.
Oh, that looks delicious.
Watch. Look at that.
Yum. That is gorgeous.
Oh, it smells so good. Okay. So we're going to reduce the temperature to 350. And we're going to set the timer for about 40 minutes. So while we are putting that timer on, we're going to let that bake. We're going to check on it in about 40 minutes. In the interim, we're going to wash up our dishes that we dirtied this morning. We're waiting for the timer because the pie is just about ready. The smell in here, Mom, how is it?
Oh my gosh. Delicious. Thank you, Sarah. Oven mitts. I get to do the honors. Wow. Okay. Oh my gosh, this looks like a picture. Oh, look at that. Wow, wow, wow. Look at that. Wow. That. Oh my gosh. Smell that.
Can't wait to try this.
Oh my gosh.
You gotta let it cool.
Bubbly, and it looks like a picture. The basket weave came out.
It looks great, and the dog smells it.
Who wants to try it?
We're all gonna try it once it cools. I hope that you guys enjoyed the show, and we're gonna see you next time.
Fun. Thank you.
Enjoy. I'll see you at the next one. Make sure you're a food critic at the end of the show. Bye.
Bye.
Okay, boys and girls, what we're going to do here is this is going to be the final thing that we'll do at the end of every recipe that we create. This is something that kind of rates our recipe. It'll tell you what you thought of what it looks like, how it tastes, what it smells like, texture. You get to be the food critic. Now, what a food critic does is a food critic rates all those different areas of a recipe. You guys are going to be able to be the food critic based on my recipe. Now, if you don't make it on your own, you can imagine what you think it might taste like and smell like and the texture of it. We can just focus on the visual representation then, what it looks like. And then what you can do is on a plate, not a real plate, you can draw a circle to represent your plate. You can draw your recipe. And then there's going to be some questions that I want you to take a look at. One, Great job today. I hope you enjoyed. See you on the next video.